Hola, amigos. I still have my pizza. My Hungry Howie's pizza. Blah, blah, blah. Generic YouTuber speech. You didn't watch the first part. Then you're stupid. You're dumb. You're stupid. And obviously, you're very, very stupid. So, yeah. You're stupid.
Was unfazed and untouched above the storm. The massive cloud structure was never truly in the same place twice, as it floated freely above Equestria. It was the largest active Pegasi arena and the official home of the Wonderbolts, hosting their many races and air show spectaculars.
Oh, this one's not a Rainbow Dash's home this time.
That was during the day, and at the present hour, it was long past Celestia's sunset. Soren, the Wonderbolt's commander, was resting on a small section of the Cloudaceum's base cloud and reflecting on how unpleasant the place seemed when it was empty. He had grown accustomed to the sounds of the cheering crowd or even the barked orders of his team captain, so it felt eerie to be absent from both. Even the sound of the rainfall beneath him couldn't shake the uncomfortable silence as he waited out the storm. Cloudsdale would never admit it, but they had been struggling since the infamous drought 7 years ago to precisely regulate the weather. Planning and preparing for rain used to be simple and easily scheduled, but even with the most precise timing and ingredients, weather machines seemed to have minds of their own from time to time. Even so, Soren hadn't thought much of staying a little late at the Cloudaceum that night until he heard the clap of thunder that started it all. He internally...
Okay. That's the third time that they said clap of thunder. And I've clapped all 3 times. Somebody put up a counter, please. Somebody please put up a counter.
He kicked himself for fussing over their commemoration performance gear, rather than return home like the other bolts. He wasn't sure who to be more upset with. The weather workers who promised the storm would strike after the memorial, or the new recruit who had forced him and their teammates to endure a grueling practice with her exceptionally high standards. Either way, he was stuck. He could technically fly through the rain, as he had many times before, but his limbs and wings ached from the laborious day. He decided that fighting the wind, water, and lightning wasn't in his best interests, especially before a big performance. As he waited, Soren reflected on the destructive nature of the storm. He winced at the thought of all those perfectly placed outdoor commemoration decorations ruined by the torrential downpour. But as time wore on, Soren's eyes grew increasingly heavy, and his head slowly sank towards the fluffy cloud that held him. Before sleep took him, however, something swiftly broke through the layer of storm clouds and brought with them a gust of icy cold wind. Soren reared up and gasped out from the sudden onslaught of liquid spraying his coat and wings.
Sup, Soren? How you doing?
What are you still doing here?
The source of that gust, Rainbow Dash, asked in surprise.
Me? What are you doing here, Crash?
Soren snapped back, using a nickname he knew she hated.
I left something in my locker. Not that it's any of your business.
Dash replied.
What's in the locker? Rainbow Crash. Huh?
Replied curtly, her eyes narrowing in disdain. She could usually take a ribbing from the other bolts, but Soren was toying with her last nerve.
If I wanted to get soaked, I'd just fly through this damn storm.
Soren remarked bitterly, shaking the feathers in his wings to remove any lingering moisture.
Afraid of a little rain, huh?
I'm not stupid enough to race lightning bolts like some ponies.
And if I were, I'd win that race too. What was our final race time earlier? Oh yeah, 15 whole seconds ahead of you, wasn't it?
Yeah,
guess you better hope that Spitfire isn't looking for a new commander after that kind of defeat.
Rainbow chuffed. If Soren was going to open the floodgates for a verbal sparring, rubbing today's defeat in his face would be a perfect counter to that ridiculous nickname. Dash didn't ask at the time, but she wondered now if defeating every single Wonderbolt in a one-on-one race on the same day was some kind of record. She knew that...
See, I want more of this stuff, you know? I'm pausing because I want all of you who didn't see the first part and did not hear my opinion at the end of the video to feel guilty and stupid. I'm kidding. You guys know I'm kidding. I'm pausing because I want you all to feel stupid for thinking that I was kidding, when in actuality I was not kidding. Yeah, that's right. What I said before, complete honesty. Stupid.
The defeat might put some of the bolts in a foul disposition, but it was worth it.
I don't want to hear it, Crash. You trolled us for hours over the routine, so it's not exactly a feat to beat us in a stupid race afterwards.
A stupid race.
Stupid? Did I hear stupid?
9 stupid races. Practice couldn't have been that bad if I was still kicking ass. I can't help if you're that out of shape.
Soren gritted his teeth and sucked in a deep, shaky breath.
Angry.
It took every ounce of restraint not to start shouting in exasperation and fatigue. Dash wasn't normally this grating, but for some reason, today she was quickly eroding his resolve. Soren's only saving grace was the ebbing of the storm beneath him. After some silence, Dash continued.
I bet I could do it again.
Right
now. Even after helping Twilight with that pointless list.
You know what? You're on. List? I don't give a fuck if it exhausts you for tomorrow. You need to be reminded of your goddamn place.
Soren asserted, spreading his wings in preparation. He had been resting for a better part of an hour now, and was confident that he could finally shut Rainbow up with a well-deserved defeat.
3 laps around the Cloudaseum. The entry arch is the finish line.
Rainbow Dash didn't argue, her brow furrowing as a smug smile spread on her lips.
3, 2, 1, go!
Whoa!
She screamed in rapid succession, taking off like a rocket and leaving a streak of rainbow behind her.
See, this artwork right here reminds me of like the type of artwork you would see for like concept art, you know? How you have like you see like the concert art for like a movie or something and you're just like, oh, but you're so like taken back and surprised of like how like freaking like amazing it looks, and you're just like, what the frick? What? And you're just sad at this point because you know that the actual movie would never look like that, but you really wish it did. That's what this reminds me of.
She could hear Soren angrily shout something in response, but was too focused on the race to pay attention. The cold night air passed through her feathers at a breakneck pace, chilling every inch of her fur. Its icy grip felt as if it penetrated her very bones, adding to the intense fatigue that she fought to keep at bay. Despite her body's warning signs, Rainbow gritted her teeth, refusing to believe that her ego had written a check that her body couldn't cash. She was so focused on victory, in fact, that she didn't notice the storm clouds dissipating beneath her until they were almost completely dissolved. When she was sure her lead on Soren was secure, Dash's attention shifted to assess her surroundings.
Dude, imagine like Applejack just like shows up on a cloud, or she like has like wings or something.
It was something she did subconsciously when she flew.
Let's hope I'm not speaking that into existence.
Something sour permeated on Dash's tongue as she took in the realization that a heavy mass of trees was directly beneath.
Yo, I like that little... that was smooth. That was a smooth transition into the Applejack voice impression. That was smooth.
Beneath them. She hadn't given much thought to the exact location of the Cloudaseum that evening, especially since the storm had previously kept her whereabouts obscured. Now, though, a slight fear was trickling up her spine and threatening to ruin her concentration. Could these be the very trees she had avoided all these years? Could she be poised just above the only place in Ponyville she vehemently refused to visit again? Rainbow's breathing quickened
like a
even
little
more
blood
than the
trail.
rigorous pounding in her chest. She tried to block the thoughts that trickled around the fringes of her mind by focusing on that final lap. It was ridiculous to allow something so inconsequential to deter her from her task. After all, a mass of trees is no threat to her, not when she was soaring hundreds of feet
Tears of the
above
Kingdom,
them.
quite
Success was
possibly.
inching closer and closer for Rainbow Dash. Perhaps that was why her attention veered beyond the clouds, so assured of her win that she could focus on other things. Her line of sight lingered on those trees, trying to coax herself into believing they were truly inconsequential. That was when a glint of light caught her eye. It was only
Ooh,
a glimmer
shiny.
amidst the dark grove, but it
Give me the
sent a
shiny.
paralyzing wave of shock
want the
through
shiny.
the Pegasus. She seized midair, her limbs refusing to move to her brain's commands. An abrupt halt was too sudden and too late for Rainbow Dash's racing partner
hope
to
it's a shiny
avoid,
Pokemon.
so the pair of Pegasi violently collided. Although it was
Whoa.
enough of a shock to bring some life back to Dash's hooves and wings, the sudden confusion of entangled limbs left gravity free to pull the helpless pair towards their demise below.
Okay, so
Both
Soren's gonna die.
Pegasi fought to separate themselves, fighting, bucking, and screaming as they plummeted. Dash was able to get one final clean buck to Soren's chest before the pair descended into the trees. Branches reached up to rake across wings and fur, ensnaring
Damn,
their
I don't think
enemies
didn't
in
even
their
need to do
matted
anything.
clutches.
You're
The
already
sting
dead.
of fresh
You're almost
wounds meshed
dead.
with the choir of snapping twigs and rustled leaves. Finally, Rainbow's flailing body impacted onto the hard, unforgiving ground. She heard a series of cracks,
She ain't
but
looking too
couldn't be
good.
sure if it had been from within or from the rain of tree debris crashing on and around her. She laid on the ground, her chest heaving as she struggled to regain her breath. Her eyes were wide and afraid, barely blinking as they surveyed the scene above her. When the rustling ebbed, she ventured to look around to see if Soren had landed nearby. Rainbow struggled to right herself, finding her limbs heavy and any movement increasingly laborious.
Soren?
She called out, her voice cracking more than usual as she fought the rising
Is he
terror in her chest. Dash couldn't see much from the limited light under the cover of trees,
I don't
so
think
she
he's
flared
dead.
out her wings to take off in flight. The problem was, only one wing responded. Dash could feel her heart pounding in her head as she slowly turned to find her left wing laying limp at her side. Seeing the marred, twig-encrusted, feathered mess was bad enough, but it was what
that
else
would-
Dash's eyes beheld
give me a
amidst
heart
the
attack.
debris that delivered the worst shock. They were small, red, round, and straight from her nightmares. Dash reared back,
Eyeballs?
every inch of her body screaming to flee.
Bouncy balls?
Soren! Where are you?
What are those things on the
Soren!
ground? I can't.
Say something!
Is that pony
Dash
flesh?
demanded, her mind
Hair?
spiraling. She peered
A bit of
back
hair on
up
it?
at the trees, but found only obscured shapes of leaves, fruits, and twigs against the moonlight. It was a sight she'd seen before, and aside from the damp soil beneath her hooves, everything about this place felt familiar in the worst way.
Whoa.
Told you. I don't want you fucking here.
Bit of a jump scare there.
Dash swallowed hard. That voice reverberated in her skull, dulling her senses. She squeezed her eyes shut and held her breath. No, not now. She couldn't let the nightmares have control. For a brief moment, she lamented
I had a nightmare for like 10 seconds, maybe like 10 seconds in my dream. Because like it started off really scary. Then, it kind of like turned into usual really weird Mr. MLP dream. Maybe I'll go over it in a different video, but I'm not going to go over it now.
turning Twilight away all those years ago. She tried to insist that Dash speak to some pony about that night, but Dash stubbornly refused time and time again. Maybe if she hadn't, she'd have some kind of method to utilize now that would keep this phantom out of her thoughts.
Soren?
Rainbow meekly called out again, unable to get her voice above a whisper. A gust of wind rustled the leaves around her, shaking some raindrops loose. The pitter-patter of droplets on the moist ground sounded like rocks colliding into boulders in Dash's ears. That musty scent in the air lingered in her nostrils, growing increasingly foul.
I am the inevitable.
Are you Thanos?
And the messenger of truth you silence with hope.
Rainbow's hooves responded to the phantom in her mind, and she bolted in any free direction she could find. She couldn't stay. What would have been the point? Her fear was already crippling her when she was hundreds of feet in the air. She would be even more used.
Okay. I like this better. To quickly retread what I discussed in the last video, Rarity's whole little thing kind of just like, because you have the same general formula, and to me it kind of feels like copy pasted, but you change some of the stuff to kind of fit the main six, and it kind of like, it's still really good, but it gets old and such. So I kind of like what they're doing with this, instead of like, you know, Rarity comes in, no, you have like Applejack comes in, causes mischief, all that kind of stuff. But this time, Applejack's just like not here physically. It's like instead going into like a mental deep dive into Rainbow's conscience, kind of making Rainbow Dash set the fear up instead of Applejack causing the fear. Because it's Rainbow really causing the fear right now. Because it's all in her head, and we have like the whole Soren thing and all that kind of stuff. So I like this a lot better because it feels different. It doesn't feel like the same scene. It feels like, I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, you're stupid. Not kidding.
Useless now that she was grounded. Her eyes scanned for any signs of light or life, as she tried desperately to outrun her thoughts. So frenzied were her movements that she tripped and fell over an unseen object. When she hit the ground, she rolled until she came to a stop against something hard. For a long while, Dash remained disoriented, not knowing which way was up or down. When her eyes finally opened, though, she could assess that she was upright and against a tree. But her eyes fixated on the object that had caused her fall. Dash's breath went still in her chest. Even in the darkness, the shape sticking out of that dirt in front of her was unmistakable. It was a long shaft with a metal end that pierced the ground to remain semi-upright. Though it was impossible to make out details with limited light, her mind filled in those blanks. Even so, it just couldn't be possible. She destroyed that accursed shovel years ago. She'd watched it blacken and burn in that firelight, the metal spade warping from the intense heat of the blacksmith's furnace.
It was a big
This
tree.
must have been a trick. A mirage that phantom in her memories had conjured to torment her.
But it wasn't just a trick.
Is that in the game?
It was an almond cookie.
All except me.
Dash winced, covering her face with her hooves and shaking so violently she was sure she'd lose consciousness. It was all she could do, just to fight back the convulsions and gagging. Tears were freely streaming down her cheeks, until finally she pierced that silence by sobbing uncontrollably. Her garbled gasp for oxygen were the only sign that she was even still breathing.
Love that series.
Dash gave into those years of suppressed anger, fear, and torment. She wasn't sure how long she had been inconsolable when she picked up a faint sound. Her ears swiveled behind her when she heard the movement of twigs and leaves. By Celestia's grace, Soren
Angel
was alive
Bunny.
and nearby. At least, that's what she thought she heard. Rainbow Dash.
Nah,
That
you're not
voice.
here.
That voice was low and ragged. Dash
can't be
hiccuped through
here,
the
come on.
sobs that refused to cease, trying to fight through that immeasurable pain to reach her friend.
Where are you?
Well, right here in the orchard, of course.
Okay, this is really starting to support my little theory here that it's all just every single Applejack interaction is just in the main six's head. Because there's literally no way that Applejack would know Rainbow Dash will be here in the middle of the Everfree Forest at midnight. During I assume there's a storm going on right now. Like, there's literally no way. The others make sense because they're all in their homes. No. Literally no. Applejack would not know Rainbow Dash is here at all. Just no. Absolutely not. Also, now I understand why they did the whole breaking Rainbow's wing, because now Rainbow can't fly away from Applejack. I see. I believe I called this out in the first video too. They figured it out. They planned it. Okay.
Where else would I be?
I don't
That
know.
voice was clear
Dead
now.
in a cell.
No longer obscured by Dash's
Not
cries and
in Everfree
whimpers.
Forest.
It wasn't quite what she was expecting, however. The voice sounded both near and far away at the same time, almost like it was carried on the wind through the trees. The tone was far removed from Soren's natural timbre, but Dash chalked it up to the spiral she was enduring mentally. The branches above her started to quake.
I can't see you. Are you hurt?
Dash responded, a little more conviction in her tone. Focusing on Soren helped keep her mind busy from the fearful frights around her. I suppose, in a way, I am hurt by what you did, or at least what you tried to do. Some part of Dash knew that pony she was conversing with now was not that same stallion she'd be groveling to for forgiveness later. Nevertheless, she carried on with the conversation without allowing her better senses to recognize the potential danger.
Can you fly? I think I boxed my.
I mean, I can try to fly. Hold on. I'm gonna fly right now. I'm gonna fly. I just jumped. That was a stupid bit.
My wing out of its socket. If you can just pop it back in, we can get out of here.
Rainbow said, realizing that she hadn't moved and her eyes were squeezed shut to remain focused on the Tascad hoof.
Ooh, that was a cool effect.
Don't ever go back! And nothing you pathetic ponies do or say can make me!
Fair enough?
Rainbow's eyes popped open to pinprick pupils. As much as her brain tried to deny it, there was no mistaking that voice now. Word for word, just as in her nightmares. Rainbow couldn't face this.
Don't you just
Not
love a
then,
good nightmare?
nor now. She had to escape. All hope for rescuing Soren was dashed as Rainbow leapt to her hooves and took off
It's
running
dashed
again.
nice.
As before, she didn't make it too far before she was thwarted. Though it was illogical, Dash witnessed limbs and trees shifting, reaching out for her and impeding her path. Their gnarled branches shot out from decayed trunks, blocking any hope of retreat.
that's
Dash
kinda
didn't
cool.
stop running, just changed course. To her horror, the process just kept on repeating itself until she was
Process just
effectively
kept-
imprisoned
really,
within the
huh.
circlet of trees.
Process just kept
we
repeating.
weren't done, the voice said, though it sounded far less ethereal this time. Dash whipped her head in all directions and spotted a faint pair of green eyes glaring at her from behind the fence of branches.
You're not.
You know, I have like a green jacket that I wear, and one of my friends is just like, wait, green's not your favorite color? Like, I haven't said so many times in my life that blue is my favorite color. If you guys didn't know that, blue is my favorite color. There's a little bit of Mr. MLP lore for you. Yeah. I don't know what it is about blue. Blue's pretty cool. You know, I like just the coolature about it. That's not even a word, but I'll make it a word. It just really got this, it's just got this nice vibe, this nice feeling to it. You know, red used to be my favorite color, but then I'm just like, nah, let's make it blue. Now I say red's my second favorite color, maybe even third, because purple's also pretty cool. But then you have pink. Pink is really cool as well. You know, there are a lot of cool colors. Yellow can be beautiful, but most of the time it sucks. Orange is just a garbage color. Brown's kind of similar to yellow. Brown, when used right, is absolutely magnificent, but also most of the time it just sucks. Yeah, black and white. I don't care what you say. Black and white is a color. I do not care about your stupid scientific color theory stuff. Black and white, color, man. It's a color. It is a color. I don't know. Like, I understand scientifically, factually, sure, yes, it isn't a color. But screw you, man. I just want it to be a color. Like, it has a visual identity apart from all the different colors. So I'm gonna say it's a color. You know? Can't we just say it's a color? Can't we all just say kumbaya and just say that white and black are colors? Isn't one of them a color or the other one? It's black. Okay, God. It's gonna make me Google it. Is black a color? Oh, both of them. Okay, so yeah, I was right. Both of them are not colors. Because I could have sworn it was just white that wasn't a color and black was a color. But then I remembered that this year, I was like, it was reversed, that black wasn't a color, but white was a color. But now both are not colors. What is happening? What is happening with society? What is happening with the universe? You know, like, global warming, political diversion, that's not the problem. Black and white not being colors is the problem. This is the real problem we should be focusing on. God damn it, I want people striking on the streets. I want people making a big fuss on the internet. Black and white for president. Black and white colors for president! Just make me happy, man. Just make me happy. Anyway. That was the most off-topic spiel I've ever been on in my life. Oh my God.
You can't hurt me!
Dash asserted, digging her hooves into the dirt floor into a ready stance. The eyes she stared into suddenly disappeared, though, and the voice responded to Dash's left. Oh, see, that's what I liked about you, Dash.
Thank you.
Only pony I knew without a lick of common sense. Just a whole lot of stupid. Dash found the eyes again, only to have them changed to a position on her right.
There's a lot of stupid.
The only pony who thought she could cure me. Well, do you honestly think there's anything left to cure, Rainbow?
Yeah. Can I take a bite of one of these apples?
You're saving me!
Shut up!
Rainbow screamed, charging at the trees where the eyes glowered into her skull. She beat against the branches between her and that taunting voice, tearing at them by mouth and hoof, like she was ripping trees from the roots to make her escape. As before, the eyes disappeared, but Rainbow didn't deter from her task. If she couldn't confront that assailant, she could at least free herself. Dash's brow was thick with sweat, and she felt as if every nerve ending was alight with anxiety. Clumps of branches, twigs, leaves, and fruit were tossed over her shoulder during her frenzy. After some time, however, Rainbow felt that sickening realization take hold. She wasn't making any progress. No matter how much she tried, that underbrush never thinned. Eventually, fatigue wrapped its jaws around Rainbow, and she slumped to the ground, hyperventilating. Her breaths were so loud, in fact, that though she heard the voice again, she couldn't quite make out what it was saying. Every ounce of her being wanted to collapse then and there, but her unadulterated sheer will refused to relent. If this part of her prison was impenetrable, then she would try someplace else. Rainbow turned around and finally beheld the massive pile of debris she'd created. Her heart sank, realizing just how much she had fought through to no avail. Still, Rainbow wouldn't give up. She took a shaky step forward, choosing a different patch of gnarled fencing to try next. By the third step, Dash heard something abnormal, a shifting sound beneath the pile before her. She shook her head, rejecting the dread that followed the noise. On that fourth step, the shifting grew louder, and Dash could see movement from the corner of her eye.
It's a sharp plant.
Morbid curiosity caused the Pegasus to pause
big plant.
and see what was coming for her next. Branches were weaving into one another, thickening themselves and casting off their apples and leaves in the process. The discarded leaves braided together their stems, while
that's Applejack. Huh. I mean, do we count that as Applejack showing up? Like, physically? Because technically, showing up physically? I'm gonna become a car. That is my Chromebook. That is why did I Yeah, it's 120. Jesus Christ. It's 127 right now. Jesus Christ.
The apples collected themselves into piles. The sounds it was emitting were more than just snaps and crackles. It also included wet sloshing and squelching. Then Rainbow felt the very ground at her hooves begin to shake. She beheld in shock a series of roots that slithered along the ground like snakes towards the amalgamation, further strengthening it. Dash wrenched herself away from the bewildering sight, deciding on a new tactic instead. She would dig her way through the muddy soil at her hooves, mud slung in every direction, as the hysterical mare fought for freedom. A taunting laughter filled Dash's ears. She grunted through gritted teeth, frustrated that the mud she excavated would end up sloshing back into place. However, she didn't stop her fruitless endeavor until the shovel from earlier whizzed past her and planted itself into the muddy mound by her side. Here,
shovel.
Try this.
Nice.
Dash reached for the shovel before turning to see the final conglomerated monster in the center of the orchard prison.
Damn.
The creature was as tall as the trees that bound Dash, though vaguely pony-like in shape. Long, twisted roots, branches, and bark made up the limbs and torso, while the leaves cascaded from the tree like a maned tail. 6 apples adorned its wooded flanks. Perhaps eeriest of all was the eyes on the pony-shaped face. 2 sunken indents of writhing, contorting limbs wove themselves in and out of the massive hollowed sockets. When Dash lingered on the darkness within them, however, she could make out a faint image. Dash squinted her eyes, leaning forward slightly in hopes the shape would manifest itself clearer in her vision. A strange shimmer, almost like a veil of dew, was reflecting from the darkness. Within that shimmer, though, Dash watched 2 smaller ponies take form. The ponies were identical, shy and frightened little mares, clinging to their last shred of sanity. Blues came into focus, then reds, yellows, then a whole hue of the rainbow. These mares weren't real. Well, they were just reflections. Dash was watching mirrored images of herself retreating away from her and further into the darkness. What? This creature wasn't just an enlarged pony timberwolf. It was a demon. At first, the thing appeared rooted to the ground until Dash gave it the attention it wanted. The left forehoof then lifted itself, roots snapping from place, until it came back down hard, only a few inches away from its prey.
It's time for you.
Dash yelped and bolted, keeping the shovel in her tight grasp. You wanted to kill me that night? A voice that Rainbow Dash finally accepted to be, well, me, said. He was coming from beyond the prison.
Nice. I like the little touch of, like, well, me. Because, like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, Applejack being the narrator right now, it feels like, it feels like it's crossing, like, it feels like it's both not Applejack, but also Applejack at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it's just this nice little confirmation that, oh, wow, yeah, this really is Applejack speaking right now. But, like, I don't... Okay, see, I'll go in... I have a thought right now, but I'm gonna go into it later. Once this thing finishes and I speak my thoughts, you know, I'll elaborate on what I was going to say.
Prison of trees, and from that monster, simultaneously. Here's your chance, Rainbow.
Oh, I love this
Fix your mistake. Rainbow screamed an agitated, frightened cry as she thrusted that shovel into the thicket of branches behind her. Attacking the confinement's walls seemed a smarter bet than the monster itself. Both monster and pony roared with laughter when the shovel bounced off branch and twig, as if made from a sturdy metal and not wood. Ash knew that there would be no other way out of this hell until she faced and conquered that demon. If I wanted a fight, well, she best better give me one. With murderous intent, Dash started hacking away at the beast with shovel in hoof. To her delight, however, the monster was penetrable. Chunks of orchard debris fell off in heaps with every successful attack. The monster wasn't remaining dormant. Earth-shattering stomps were made by tremendous hooves, each one unsuccessful. The massive head lowered to ram into the small Pegasus prey, but it too would find only failure. Rainbow took great satisfaction seeing the beast ram into their wooded prison walls, and large pieces of itself snap and fall away. Even more gratifying were the outcries of anger and pain coming from that beast, as well as the voice from beyond the confinement. As Dash whittled the monster down, her confidence and her anger only grew. As it said, she should have killed me that night. That Twilight Sparkle. She was a fool to insist otherwise, when they could clearly see the irreversible evil that I had done. It didn't matter how I got free, or how I came to be here. It didn't matter what strange magic I had invoked now. This was a gift. This was Dash's chance to truly save Equestria the right way. Dash had almost completely dismantled the orchard monster when she caught sight of something that surged exhilaration through her body.
Whoa. Also, fire? It's not really a place to make fire right now, but that would be the best way to actually, like, finally like, defeat the demon, you know? Fire.
Blood. The pony who wielded this behemoth must have been at its core. Dash didn't hesitate. She took the shovel in both front hooves and pierced it completely through the center of that creature.
Let's go, Rainbow. Let's go. Oh,
The monster screamed in bloody agony before slumping to the ground, the rest of the flora falling away. Simultaneously, the branch barriers between the trees shriveled and dropped, opening several escape paths into the orchard.
Huh?
Dash was clutching her chest as she tried to steady her breath.
She gonna
relieved to
survive?
finally be free.
Nah, she's
That
not
was until some branches gave way to show an oranger mare standing proud among the trees. Her
hello,
green
Albertine.
eyes glinted in that
Oh, no, I'm so
darkness,
scared.
while an evil smirk played on her lips. Dread filled Dash's mind.
Not
If I
mine.
was still there, then who did she? Dash knew she shouldn't look. She knew that I'd played her for a fool. She knew exactly what she was gonna see when she turned around.
Wow, 15%? Really? Wow, I sure appreciate you warning me. Actually, I do really appreciate you warning me. Actually, I'm super sorry. I was being very sarcastic, phone. I'm just... Thank you.
Around to look at the remains of that monster. She knew, but she also couldn't stop herself from confirming it.
No.
It's
No,
the
please.
apple.
Dash turned her head to see the murderous shovel standing proud in the back of her pony prey. Their eyes were shut, tear-stained cheeks mired in mud. Hooves were splayed behind them, and wings let out a final twinge before
That's
falling lifelessly
dang.
on either side
That's
of the
pretty good
shovel
twist.
spade. Soren was gone, and it was all Dash's fault.
Oh, that's cool.
No.
Dash
Cool in a writing way, not cool in an actually cool way. I gotta clarify that for you people.
whimpered, prying the weapon from her teammate's back and spraying herself in his blood. She cast the shovel aside, collapsing on the ground and giving into her violent nausea, which ripped through her in wave after wave of shock and despair. The sounds of, my delighted and unhinged laughter eventually pulled Dash out of her stupor. Maybe I anticipated this being the end of Dash's attempts to subdue me, but I would be wrong. Dash methodically pushed herself back to standing position and slowly reached for the bloodied shovel that she
Let's
cast
go,
aside.
Rainbow.
She approached me, the distracted, laughing villain, keeping her hooves as silent as possible as they carefully navigated around the debris. Once she was sure of her
Her
aim,
speech is gonna be
she
cut off.
lifted that shovel. Dash screamed, thrusting
Yeah,
the
no,
weapon at me, who only had a few moments to avoid that attack. Although she was chagrined to see herself miss, Dash did catch a hint of shock and fear from me when I realized that Dash was trying to pursue me still. I reared up and turned on my hooves, racing
ran?
deeper into the orchard, but this time
Oh,
as
come
prey, not predator.
Let's finish this.
Oh
Dash
shoot!
snarled,
Let's go,
casually
Rainbow.
picking up the shovel
Yeah.
and holding it aloft in her good wing. Each step she followed, she did so in confidence.
You know what? Let's
One
kill
way
that
or
batch of
another.
milk.
This was going to end before sunrise.
And that's the end of the episode, huh? Yep, that's the end of the episode. Wait until the end? Okay. Actually, no, let's see the date first before I go into the closing thoughts. Finale, January 12th! That's almost a full month. Ooh. Yeah, that's a while. Okay. Closing thoughts. I still have problems. The last episode, I was really invested. I was properly, just loving the masterful craft that was the first and second episode. This episode, I've noticed some problems here. So, one of the reasons why I was so invested and so enthusiastic about this 4-part little sequel to Apple Sleep Experiment is because it gave an opportunity to provide more hints and clues as to really what happened during the first Apple Sleep Experiment. How exactly did Applejack become the way she did? What was with the whole jail cell, dungeon, potions, all that kind of jazz? While also providing a new narrative to offer more questions and more hints to a potentially deeper meaning, and just also giving more of a good time, But the thing is, if you saw the other 2 videos, or the other 3 videos, how many videos I've done on this, you know how much I'm just pure focus trying to grab meaning and question everything about what's going on to the smallest minute details. But the thing is that with these same scenes, these scenes keep changing and changing and changing and changing everything. It's coming to the point where something that would be like, oh, that probably has meaning. To me now, it's just like, well, does it actually have meaning? Because it keeps changing and changing and changing and changing to the point where so many small, minute details, they don't connect at all. Like, all these changes, they don't feel like they connect to some greater meaning. Because there's just so much that's going on, so many different potential meanings that you can grab from all these different changes, where I'm just like, well, what actually has meaning? What's actually building towards something? And what's actually just, oh, that's just for entertainment value, or that's just something that doesn't actually have any meaning that we didn't put, actual thought into, And it's making me not really want to question anything and just interact with the series. It's just, and at that point, and if I'm not really interacting with it or questioning anything, all I'm getting is just, oh, action, I guess, blood and gore, the same thing that I've been getting these past 2 episodes. I'm not getting anything new. I'm just getting horror. But it's the same type of horror. It's not fresh. It's just, I'm not enjoying it as much because it feels like the same thing over and over again. Because with a different type of audio drama, typically you would be invested. The first episode would get you invested in the story, the characters, the plot, and all that kind of stuff. And gradually over time, the story would progress. The plot would progress, the character arcs would progress, everything would progress. But the thing is just that this feels stagnant. It feels like we're in the same spot we were episode 1. It doesn't feel like anything really substantial has changed. Which leaves the meaning. But the meaning, I can't really find anything. So that just leaves me the plot. But there's no progression, so that leaves me the meaning. And I'm just stuck in this endless cycle of trying to find something to grab into, to be interested in and invested in. But there's just nothing to grab onto. So I'm just sitting here watching gore in action. And yes, editing's great. Freaking hecking really well paced. Writing's good, but I'm just not feeling it, man. I'm not feeling it. I'm absolutely sure that the finale will definitely differ from these past 2 episodes, because now we have Rainbow Dash chasing after Applejack, which I'm sure that'll like really like be like, okay, now we have some opportunity here to get back some of that meaning, some of that questioning, and also get back some of that progression through the story, you know? And here's another thing with the more I'm seeing here, the more like it kind of supports the theory of this is all just like the main 6 going through what Applejack went through, and that all this is just delusions of the main 6. Applejack isn't actually there. And if that's true, then there isn't really much of a meaning to like any really weird minute detail that's in any of the things. It's just, oh, well, if they're all having delusions, that's it. They're just delusions, you know, and the main 6 are causing their own pain. Like, what's the theme here? What's the message? It's just them it's just them torturing themselves. Like, that's not. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm kind of sad that this wasn't as positive, I guess, as I would like it to be. But you know what? I gotta speak my thoughts, So yeah. I still... Hey, if on a positive note, I still have like 2 slices of pizza left and 2 full crust thingies. So hey. Eating pretty good.